I've been doing these for a little over a year, and they're not a drastic departure from what I've been doing of late, but you know, for the last probably 10 years, the grid has been very important in my work. And you know, last year, trying to get a little more involved in making metaphors for landscape, so to speak, the grid started taking over the surface. That was real exciting for me because it was a chance for me to really start exploring color and just, you know, it was a good way to challenge myself. I think, you know, spending so much time in LA and Southern California has had a huge influence on my work. I'm very much a New York painter, and I love the history of it. But, you know, I certainly can't deny all that Southern California has done for my work. The color, you know, they've got their own very unique history. I think the interesting thing about having a studio on both coasts, or the lucky thing, is you know, a lot of times I have ideas that I'm trying to figure out and work through in New York, and I get to LA, and suddenly I'm surrounded by this vivid color. And you know, the ideas that I've been playing around with in New York, they start taking focus, but they're doing it in a very different way. You know, again, because you're inundated by that color and that light. You know, the light is so different than it is in New York. By the same token, if I'm in Los Angeles for an extended period of time and I'm working out some ideas, generally the first week or so I'm back in New York in my studio, it's just running crazy. My use of color, I think a lot of it comes out of Southern California. But, you know, again, I really think of myself as a New Yorker, a New York artist. You know, I like the idea of being part of that history too. You know, with the geometry, you know, again, it's sort of a metaphor for landscape. I've always been real intrigued by it, landscape, and just looking, you know, that's what we do as abstract artists, you know, we're looking and trying things out. Living in New York, you can't escape the grid. You know, you live in it. But then, you know, you can soften those edges, and you're dreaming of a landscape. The difference in the quality of light between New York and Southern California. New York has this, it's a softer, gauzier light. But in LA, it's so intense, and it's electric to me. You know, this is all my eye. That quality is part of how the artists of LA started doing what they're doing, you know. The interest in automotive paint, design, you know, I think a lot of that part of that came out of that light that they were living with, that energy. Whereas in New York, it's a softer light. You've got the grid again, you've got the city. You can hear the sirens out there. So it's not just the light, but it's also just the place, where you are. So a lot of the ideas leading up to paintings or thoughts I'll be having go down in my notebook. And eventually it's taken over by lists and sketches. But then I go back in and I start just painting over everything and adding some collage element, and again just kind of exploring formal possibilities that may or may not end up in a painting. But I got really interested in the collage element because of what's left of this book. It's a translation of the Mustard Seed Garden Manual of Painting, an old Chinese text. And so I had this book all over the world with me. And as it started falling apart, I just decided that it was going to become material. And it's had a big influence on my drawing and my works in paper, utilizing, the pages. And yeah, it was a great companion for a long time. And now it's taken on this new life. There's so much information in the world, visually, that, every day you just wake up and you're inspired. You're ready to make some work. And it's a good place to be.